Hi, this is Yushigura, and you are listening to In This Age.
So, firstly, just wanted to talk about the series between India and Australia in the women's cricket.
Yeah.
What has it looked like from your end? Like, what do you think? Obviously, Australia's leading 2-0. Do we think India's going to get the third one, or what's the prediction from your end like?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to beat Australia in Australia, and they've shown that they have strength and depth with Georgia Bowl obviously coming in and obviously standing up in the absence of Elisa Healy. So yeah, for India, I think it's they just need a big performance from one of the players. I think Risha Ghosh at the top is looked to be aggressive. Harmanpreet and Jamima have put out some runs, but I think they need one big performance of the centuries that Australia are making. And then I think in terms of their bowlers, it's really just figuring out ways of being able to contain what is quite a tricky lineup. The fact that Elise Perry scored at, a strike rate of 140, how can they curtail her scoring so quickly? It's definitely something that has been a feature of her play is that she's like to get into her innings, but the fact that she was able to increase that strike rate, I think, shows where she's at as a cricketer, that she's happy to play more aggressively. So I think it's just finding ways to upset the rhythm from the bowlers. Yeah, they'd love to obviously come away with a win in this last one.
All right, interesting insight there. Now, talking about the men, obviously it's 1-1 as of now. India took it away in Perth, followed by Australia performing very well in Adelaide. Now we've got Brisbane coming up. Do we think the fortress gets breached again, or
I think that's something that India can take confidence from is that Australia has struggled there in recent times. Although that was at the end of a series when the bowlers were a little bit more tired. So I think Australia will want to rectify that. They bounced back really well after that first test. They're back to the ruthless Australia of old. And I think they'll go into that test match full of confidence. From an Indian point of view, the only thing I'd be concerned about, not necessarily the batting, because they've got loads of experience there, and I think going back to red ball cricket, that will suit their batters, the likes of Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma in the middle order. I think it will suit him. I just think with the bowling, a lot depends on the fitness of Jasprit Bumrah. I know the last Test match, Mohammad Siraj was leading the attack at the Gabba, and the number of Test caps between that bowling attack was about 5. But I think they need Jasprit Bumrah ideally. With his experience, his ability to make things happen. Mohammad Siraj, good to see him in the wickets in the last test. And I think he will take confidence from that. How they look at the spin attack I think that depends on Bumrah and what he's capable of. I think Washington Sundar will definitely come back in because he can offer a little bit more with the bat. And then it's whether they supplement that with another spinner, depending on Bumrah's fitness, or if they bring in Avash Khan to kind of support the other bowlers. So yeah, that's going to be the biggest question for me is Bumrah's fitness.
all right? You mentioned Siraj over there, so going back to the last Test match, after the incident between Travis Head and Siraj, he was getting a lot of boos from the crowd. Do we think that's going to repeat in Brisbane as well, and that's going to take a toll on his performance?
I think naturally people like to jump on the bandwagon with things like this, and so I imagine that pantomime villain tag probably won't go away anytime soon, but from my point of view, it was a situation that was nipped in the bud between the two players. They seemed to be jovial and friendly at the end of the match, and that's the contest. In the heat of the moment when emotions are boiling over, things can be said. It just adds to the spice of the series. But I don't think there's anything in it more than that.
Okay. I believe there was recently a video of you in the commentary box that went around quite a lot with Brett Lee talking about the wicket taken by Pat Cummins, which everybody described as like the perfect way to bowl someone out. So, what does the expectation from Pat Cummins look like from your end?
I think he's a world-class operator. I think he was undercooked in that first Test match, but potentially with the view of playing the long game and being able to kind of perform throughout the whole series. So I think he'll be going into that Brisbane Test full of confidence, and he's someone who can bowl with the new ball, the first change bowler. I think if Josh Hazlewood comes back in, he'll enjoy going back to that role of first change. He can be the enforcer as well. But I think what was key was the aggression he bowled with and the fuller length at Adelaide, which you need to do. In Brisbane as well, you need to bowl a slightly fuller length and not get carried away too much with the bounce. But it's those kind of aggressive short balls that were well directed that I think that's where we knew that Pat Cummins was back at his best.
Okay. Now, based on the performance in the last Test match, do we think Marnus has secured a spot again? Because there were a lot of talk going around about him that he should be dropped because he was not contributing much to the side.
Yeah, and like teams, it's how you respond under that pressure, and I think he's responded really well. There was a lot more intent there. He was going back to what he did in the past in terms of his movements. When I saw him playing those shots through mid wicket, that's when I knew that he was feeling confident because his balance was there. He took away his cover drive, which is something that he felt he needed to do to kind of put the runs on the board. I think with all these things, it's steps, and I think the last Test match was a step for Marnus Labuschagne. He's now returning to home where he enjoys playing at the Gabba, so I imagine he'll be going in with that extra spring in his step.
All right. And last question. According to you, what is the prediction? Who takes away the series? Is it going to be a draw? Australia win? India win?
Hard to call this one now. Uh,
Or
I
do you
think
think rain's going to come and spoil it?
I think the rain always spoils it in Sydney, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
that
it
will be a
does.
draw. So then it's between what happens in Brisbane and Melbourne. And I could absolutely see this being a drawn series.
So you reckon it's going to be 2-2 each way?
Yeah, why not?
All right. So who are you personally tipping to be taking home the series?
Um, at this stage now, I'd be probably in Australia's camp, but I honestly think India will bounce back strongly in Brisbane. So um, it's really hard to call. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. I think it's going to be a leveled series.
Thank you very much. That's it from my
Okay,
end.
no problem. Thank you.